Okay, welcome back to Dogwood Headquarters. I'm Kai Nagata. I run the Let BC Vote campaign at Dogwood.
And I'm Laura Benson. I'm the director of the Beyond Coal campaign at Dogwood.
So this month, our strategy video is about collaborating with other organizations. And Laura, I was hoping you could catch us up on the Beyond Coal campaign and our work with other groups here in BC and across the border.
Absolutely. Well, the Beyond Coal campaign really only exists because we have these strong partnerships with groups on the American groups and groups in BC in the Lower Mainland. So the beginning of the Beyond Coal campaign came when we linked up with the Power Pass Coal Coalition on the U.S. side of the border. This coalition of dozens of groups, including the Sierra Club, Climate Solutions, any number of folks who are working against the proposals for new coal export terminals in Washington and Oregon. And they realized that they needed a Canadian partner because this is where the coal is getting through already. So they brought Dogwood on board, and this issue around Fraser Surrey Docks had already sort of taken the flame. What's the word I'm looking for here, Kai?
Well, it's U.S.
It
coal
had sparked
anyway,
a flame,
right?
yeah.
So it's their coal coming from Wyoming through Washington State and then popping up across the border.
Exactly.
So we're the last sort of line of defense.
And here in BC, groups like Voters Taking Action on Climate Change and local residents groups had gotten wind of this proposal to send more of this U.S. thermal coal through BC's ports, and already started fighting the proposal when Dogwood came in. And so we really partnered up with VTAC, with groups like Communities in Coal that grew out of this groundswell of opposition to push the campaign forward, and we really wouldn't have been able to delay that project by almost 2 years without those partnerships.
So there's a big decision point coming up, right? There's a big moment in the permitting fight.
Well, this year is going to be huge, I think, on this project. So we're down to the last few permits that this project needs to move ahead from the regional government, Metro Vancouver, wastewater and air quality. So those are going to be big political fights where we're going to be asking all of our supporters to get engaged. And working closely with our partners to make sure we're all mobilizing under the same banner. And those same groups, Voters Taking Action on Climate Change, Communities in Coal, have lodged court challenges of the existing permits that the Port Metro Vancouver approved last year for the Fraser Surrey Docks project and the provincial government approved. So we're going to be working hard to support those, their efforts in court. And really, none of us can succeed without each other.
Well, that sounds a lot like the campaign against oil tankers on the coast.
Right. So it sounds like this year is going to be tons of collaborative moments.
Yeah, it's
as well.
It's kind of a new moment. So you remember we launched the Let BC Vote campaign last year, and within that we've had a series of campaign asks. And in November we put out a petition at bcreview.ca calling on the provincial government to hold its own environmental assessment. The reason is the National Energy Board's process for evaluating pipelines is so flawed that the interveners themselves are losing confidence, and in fact they're either pulling out of the process or thinking about pulling out.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, right. I am a commenter too. I got to get on that. But it's hard to get motivated when the process is so blatantly rigged in favor of the proponent. So we're asking the provincial government to step up and assert their jurisdiction. And what's great is that a bunch of our allies in the environmental movement have basically come around to the same strategy, the same core ask. And so looking ahead to April 11th, we're planning this coordinated day of door knocking all across the province with Tanker Free BC, with Forest Ethics, Georgia Strait Alliance, Wilderness Committee, and with Sierra Club and Dogwood. So we're all going to be going out with the same ask, talking to supporters in communities across the province, and then delivering those petition signatures to the legislature in May.
That sounds pretty significant. Do you think, has anything like that ever happened before on this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had moments like this before, and I think that this is another one of those times where it really takes all of these civil society groups, unions, First Nations, and environmental groups coming together at these key moments in order to force the government's hand. And in this case, it's just time for them to step in and hold a fair, independent review, because otherwise nobody's going to do that.
Speaking of unions, maybe we can talk a little bit about the federal election.
Yeah.
Something we'll be working on quite a bit, and I know there's some pretty unique alliances that we're forming there around that work.
Absolutely. So thinking about nonpartisan groups in British Columbia, Unifor is the largest private sector union in Canada, and they passed a resolution internally saying they weren't just going to support one party anymore, they would support basically any progressive candidate that could move forward their values and their agenda, rather than just tying themselves to the NDP in this case. And so that's freed them up to work with groups like us in new ways. And so back in November, we had a meeting in Toronto with a whole bunch of national nonpartisan groups, including Lead Now, other familiar faces like Force of Nature from BC, Dogwood, Unifor. And so basically what we were able to do in BC is look at the map and divide up these key swing ridings so that we're not doubling up, so that you don't have multiple nonpartisan campaigns overlapping in the same places. And so what you're going to see is Dogwood's going to take point in maybe 5 or 6 ridings in BC, but in all those other places, we're going to be pushing our organizers and resources towards other groups that are working in that turf so that we don't double our efforts up. Oh, and that definitely gets to our new position that we're hiring for.
Right, so this is the first time ever that we've come together to pool our resources with one of our allied groups, Lead Now, where neither group, we both have this need for more digital expertise. We're using the same systems, we're using the same models for organizing, but we don't, neither one of us has the wherewithal or the resources to hire one person to do that for our organization. So we're pooling resources to hire somebody that can help both organizations in our efforts in the federal election, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, the only difference is really going to be geography, where those teams are that they're working with. But it's cool that we're finally recognizing some of those overlaps in our strategy and our tools and tactics and finding efficiencies, because there's never enough money to go around between all these groups.
We had the money that our opponents have when we were in these problems.
Yes, if only. He said as he slowly sipped from a free mug that he got at a conference. Okay, that's all for this month. Thanks, folks. Thanks again for all the work that you do, and you'll hear from Laura and I on both of those campaigns and more on the federal election, coming to an inbox near you very soon.